Dude, the law enforcement and these men are all trash. They're all sociopaths. These are hate crimes. And this guy was reported, and it shouldn't be, oh, let's just let him go for a million years and let him harm everybody. He should also get a murder charge because the end of this is really messed up. So there's this story from Walnut Creek. And I assume that is California because we are the most pro-rape fucking state out here. So then his name is Brandon, who's 35. We're in a culture of, let's dehumanize women and treat them like crap. And so every story I go on in the comments, I can find every sociopath under the sun. Anybody that's going, why would that woman go, that right away, boom, that is the playground that is needed to get a mass shooter. And also, like I pointed out in this other article, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start just educating in the comment section, regardless if people read it or not. But the thing is that the women that are asking that are going to be the same women that assault men. Do you guys figure this out? I mean, this is scrambled egg brain right here. Like, they don't get it. Okay, so they're enabling and blaming victims, which is a sociopath thing to do. Did we not read through even, like, the history of psychopathy? I mean, they consider that a psychopath, so they're going to call you a psychopath. I'm just calling you a socio, but I would rather be called, I don't know, I think I'd rather be called a socio, but I don't know. But they're calling you a psychopath. So you're going on like that. And so what that means is when they're doing that is that they're okay with that conduct that he did, right? And that they'll just ignore it and then they'll go do it. Like that type of thing. And then they'll just blame the victim. It's like, well, you came over. So like everything they're saying to the victim is how they're going to be to any other person. So male or female. So they, enable each other. It's the stupidest thing. That's why I said their socials are so dumb. But it's stupid to say don't try to make sense of it. I mean, they don't make sense, but I mean, we can make sense of it in the sense that it's like, here's an example with the one with it was a female raping a young boy, and there was men in the comments like praising it and promoting it, right? So then, therefore, then the guys will come in and go, women do it too. Nobody goes after women. And then at the same time, they're promoting it, right? So then women will go do it because they're promoting it and they're saying there's nothing wrong with what I do. But here's the mindset of this. It doesn't matter if you were educated on it or not. The action of doing something against somebody's will is a hate crime. And you'll see this with military guys a lot. So we're really hitting hard on the military thing because they're just general sociopaths because they have to be, right? So we're talking about their conduct when they go into combat, that they'll go and start raping women. It isn't because, oh, it's a sex crime. They're doing it, it's a hate crime. It's a hate crime. It was a hate crime the whole time on me. There was none of this, oh, I really care about you, and somebody just didn't consent. Those were straight up hate crimes. It's all selfishly around the socio that, does harm to self and others, right? And so when they do harm to self and others, you can end up with dead victims, and the victims may die, not necessarily even just from the action as it's happening, right? But after the fact. But that's why I go, they're the leading cause of mental illness across the globe. Isn't it crazy? Because if they didn't exist, then, and it's kind of a catch-22 because they're getting created because of the abuse, but because of their abuses, they create other mental illnesses, right? Such as PTSD, right? And a number of things, right? So we're finding out. So I started, kind of researching a little bit on the others, right? Just to like, oh, see, and it gave some additions into this. So, yeah. And they're making everybody ill. The ASPD, son of a bitch, male supremacists, Christians, military, all that whole mindset is making everybody ill. and they're causing all these mass shootings and other crimes on, you know, whoever they decide they want to hate on for the day. And the reason, I mean, I literally did hours, and I was like trying to, I know my wording sucks. I was trying to articulate the mindset of that and why that playground needs to be there in order to then, it's like the steps to, then we hate women, then we hate people of color, then we hate this group, because just targeting the branch off of it doesn't stop this, right? And there needed to be something there in order for you to jump from this point to that point. Because a person that's like, they humanize people properly, um, you could say all the hate speech you want, and it's not going to turn you into some like neo-Nazi, right? So there was some sort of thing that needed to be there first, you know, a type of a sociopath, in order to then jump from this point to that point. It's a crazy thing. It's not like what you would like, not like just sit here one day and just go, oh yeah, total, you know, come up with that. Like you have to like, it took years. It took years just going through case after it. I don't know. It's just like one day you keep going through it, and it's like you have all the information and it just clicks. And then so now when you go through these cases, you should start noticing more flags. And then it's a hindsight thing where you go back to that old case, you know, from like 99, and you go, oh God, it's there, you know, and that's how you kind of know you're like on the right track of like what you're thinking about this thing. And, as to why certain ones would go homicidal, that one, I mean, if we could figure that specific thing, then that would be great. We know why they're going socio, but when you start talking about people starting to just annihilate people, that's kind of that added addition, because they all acted like those two guys in school. Maybe it's just that they're all capable of doing that and they just didn't do it. There is a lot, like they'll go kill animals and things like that, but like that might be one of those things where you just don't know, but you really need to tackle just the general thing itself. All of them, I mean, I don't think there was a single one really, other than you might not see it in certain, well, I think even like the gay males in school had this thing of how they viewed women. And one of the unfortunate things about that, and I was looking at it with the transgender case, was that she may have been identifying with the socio male, which totally could be, because like if you look at a man and you're like, oh, I identify with that, she's identifying with the socio male that's online, that's like, I'm gonna, you know, do all this bullshit. Yeah, totally. But then males, like the gay males, maybe some, I mean, could be identifying with some other things that may not be healthy in females. Um, you know, like targeting themselves and all that stuff. So, but they all got that same ideology because before they came out as gay, they were treated in that same fashion, right? You know, man up, don't be a sissy. It's really bad to be gay, you know, it's really bad to be a woman is really the tail off of that whole thing, right? Because being gay is basically, you know, they're like, oh, you're being a sissy. Like they're hating on our gender thing right there, right? So the dehumanizing of any female, I mean, of any person as a child, right, where they're teaching that, has this playground to where you could dehumanize everybody. Because, like, that shouldn't even be in a child. None of that. None of that. The church is to blame and they should get smacked down for it. But yeah, they were a big promoter of that, and they pounded that into little kids. So then all these hate crimes and the femicides and the rapes and all that stuff was actually created by them. And so, because they dehumanized us to, like, we should let men grope us anywhere, which is basically a sexual assault, which is basically a rape. And guys sitting there going, what? There's no big deal that I just squeezed your tit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hello, you socio. But they did that like daily, and government was promoting it. So then government now is dealing with its own bullshit. Now they want to stand back and go, oh, and it's like, no, you're the same person than the person that did that thing over there. So this guy, like this guy, is all since 2018, reports of sexual assault involving 35-year-old Brandon have been piling up. Yay! Government just lets it happen because they're boys and he's a white boy. I don't know what he is. Okay, so he's like, yet it wasn't until last month. Last month. Okay, how many years has it been? 5. Okay. Yet it wasn't until last month investigators, these investigators that are like, this is the most serious, terrible crime ever. We're just gonna let them, do this for years. Okay, yet it wasn't until last month the investigators connected the dots and brought a case to the Contra Costa prosecutors who charged him raping 4 victims. Now prosecutors have connected him to 3 new assaults, and the authorities say that they're still investigating the possibility that more victims are out there. He's 35. He's been doing that since school. He was that little dickhead that was like trying to pull my skirt up, and you know what I mean? That's that guy. And they're all over the place. Like, they're sociopaths. They're all over the freaking place. I'm like, that guy, that guy, that guy. I mean, it never ends. But this is the guy that every father was like, that a boy, you're a good boy. You're being a real man. This is what men do. Us women need to bend over for you. And they need to understand this is just how we are. We're a bunch of sociopaths. Yeah, totally. I'm hearing it even from the other victim from the last story I did. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I don't think she realizes it. Like, the whole family sitting there telling the woman before she died, I have this problem with this guy, man, because he's like controlling. Oh yeah, his father was like that. You just have to kind of deal with it. Yeah, and then she gets murdered. You know what I mean? Like that thing. Okay, so a Walnut Creek resident was familiar with the local bar scene. Authorities say he has worked both as a bartender and a bouncer. I wouldn't trust the bouncers, no, because like half of them were like criminals back in the. Okay, at various establishments around the Bay Area, and that in more than one instance he appeared to target intoxicated women at bars for sexual assault. Don't we all know about this, ladies? And that goes into the other story about the rainbow, which I'll probably tail in on this one too. So, yes, this was men's MO. So this is a sociopath. This is a predator that's going, I'm going to wait till my victim doesn't know what the fuck is going to happen, and then I'm going to pounce her. Like that, like a conscious, like, you're telling me that this is all about ignorance. That is a very calculated, plotted person knowing that I am going to do something against someone's will. And to sit there and try to tell every woman in fucking California that that's not rape is just a sociopath from our government. Because this has nothing to do with even just what the guy did. It has to do with when we go and report stuff where the government here did that and then sat there and was like, oops, well, sorry, ladies, it's been 20 years now, so since we were okay with it then, our hate crimes on you we shouldn't be held accountable for that. No, you shouldn't be held accountable for that? I think everybody deserves to be fucking sued. The government. Mostly in the state of California. But that's what they were doing. I'm just telling you. And they were doing it to children. And then they told kids that it wasn't rape. That's disgusting. That's not an ignorant thing. That's a sociopath thing where they want the right to do it. I can keep stressing this. I go socios, put that shit around all the time. That is ASPD. That's why they were so off on the therapy. Like, they would go in and the guy's like, I'm depressed. It's like, oh, you poor baby, here's some depression pills for you. And he's a straight up psychopath. And we've been saying, but sociopaths don't listen to us because we've been dehumanized. Right? Everything I said is factual. I'm so glad the rainbow thing came up because I go, that was part of my story. And I said I got dragged out of there and raped. Like, there was a whole thing. and they had a drug room. So we'll talk about that in a second. But police also seized unidentified medication from the home and conducted tests to see if he possessed any narcotics that are commonly used for date rape drugs. Okay, due to the nature of the allegations, the circumstances surrounding the case, we believe there may be other individuals who may have been sexually assaulted by the same suspect. With the new charges, he now faces 10 felony counts, including multiple counts of forcible rape, forcible penetration, and single counts of forcible sodomy, rape an unconscious person. You need to add hate crime in these mix. Okay? It's not there. Hate crime. Hate crime. The charges go as far back as 2018 and as recent as April, and an East Bay woman. So they knew and they just let him do it. So he raped her while she was engaged in a consensual sexual act with one of his friends, right? So then the case was assigned to Jason, a 12-year-old law enforcement veteran who came over to Walnut Creek. Oh, you must know all about that crap, Jason. And let it all go, I'm sure. Okay, anyway, 2014, after 3 years in the Contra Costa office, Trigger had received public accolades from the department for recovering a stolen car in 22. Hey, can you go find my car? Because I don't know where it is. And for rescuing baby ducklings. Oh, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. And from a storm drain in 2020. But as he dug deeper into his police file, he realized the case before him appeared to be one of the area's biggest serial rape cases in recent memory. Are you kidding? He's like every guy. See what they do and trust that this guy here has probably done some bullshit like that. That's the thing. That's how common it is. And the people that did stuff to me would have way more than 7 victims. It is a rape fest in this state. It's a rape fest everywhere because the way that these people are speaking. Go read the comment section. You could tell all the people that'll let it happen. They sit there and they play pretend like, oh, everybody's lying and it's just not happening in their life because they're a bunch of Christian loons. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. There was a report of rape in Contra County in 2018, and the following year, police in San Francisco investigated him as a sexual assault suspect in 22, but in all 3 cases, the investigators had gone nowhere, either due to the lack of corroboration to the alleged victims' reports. Now, there's probably nothing wrong with what they, any of that. Now they're making excuses. And they said, or in one case, because the woman died from a drug overdose after being diagnosed with PTSD just 11 months later. See, to me, that's a manslaughter type of murder type of thing right there. They need to put those additions. It's a hate crime and they caused a mental illness. Okay? This is why we're pulling up these son of a bitch, piece of shit, crap men. It is very important to note this because nobody's getting in trouble for it. It's just enabling it. And they feel free to just keep bullying me. They feel free to keep doing all this bullshit. They feel free to think it's funny raping kids, making jokes about being with teenagers, making all these things. They have been touching kids the whole time. They want the fucking right to do it. So what that's saying is that they dehumanized us completely, and they're actually enabling it by just saying, oh, you can let girls die, or even males having this problem because some of Kevin's died. I don't know. But like they're getting mental illness because of the sociopath. They create mental illnesses. Their personality disorder creates the mental illnesses. The mental illnesses are not causing the all this other stuff. It's the PD itself. And there's a lot of people with it inside whatever other bullshit that they have, but I'm pulling out the PD because I know what's in the PD. So that's what it is. So okay, so we're gonna go down here. The newspaper is not naming the exact dates or locations to protect their identity. One of the women reported in 2019 he bumped into her at the Contra the bar and insisted on driving her home. Just like the cops, right? The cops were like, here's my card, when you're drunk, I'll, give us a call so you don't get busted. To that one girl, I was like, oh man, some bullshit happened there. He allegedly sexually assaulted her after they arrived at her house, despite her attempts to fend him off. 11 months later, the woman went unconscious and died shortly after video chatting with a friend and suspected drug overdose. Oh, this is effed up. He needs to be charged with that death. Men are never held accountable, and that's a sociopath thing to do. Don't be held accountable, right? Uh-huh. Police noted in the report that the women had been diagnosed with PTSD and depression due to the alleged assaults. That's right. So he should be held for a death. And she suffered at the hands of a relative, a physical abuse, and she suffered at the hands of a relative. All these people, they're all getting away with it. She recently been self-medicating with painkillers and Xanax. Now, despite her death, authorities have charged him, I don't know how to say his last name, it's like Deligrudi, and with raping her, using her statements to police and physical evidence collected during the investigation to justify the charges. Yeah. So why don't they do this all the time instead of having me keep re-saying a story? This is what they do. And then, you know what they'll probably do? When you keep talking about a story and then you might say something a little differently sometimes, then they'll go, oh, dude, she's lying. This shit. It's very stressful talking about your rapes. Okay, I mean, how many times do you think I want to talk about being dragged out into a fucking lot? You know what I mean? Like this thing. And these idiot men, these sociopath male investigators will keep having me repeat a story a million times. And they don't, this is the how they dehumanize us because they don't see us as human. And that they look at this as just bad sex. Okay, it's just a bad sex thing happened. It'll go away. This thing? And the thing about PTSD is that it'll bring up the worst stress and anxiety ever. And it's not manic, but I don't know if some people get that way on it, but no, it's like the trauma feeling. And so then you get in this really bad state. I'm just used to the state, so I don't need pills to I don't feel like it's so distressing. I need to do something like that. But some people can't take that amount of inner turmoil, and so they may medicate like that. And that's why I said, there's something different with me than from addicts, but it just could be I have a higher tolerance of horrific. That's not a good thing either, but like a higher tolerance of the trauma thing, like where I'm not like knocking myself out. I'm just sitting here like laying in it. It's kind of like that. But the more I talk about it a lot, you guys will notice. So it's kind of, but then at the same time, it could be a very automatic thing where I'm kind of disassociated sometimes from it, but not always. There'll be times that I'll get totally stressed out and it'll keep me up for a little while. Her life was cut short, right? So he gets to live, and then the first time you ever show me a guy going, what about her career, will be like the day I see hope in any fucking male. I have never even read that in the comment section. Like when something like this happens, I've never in my life, I mean, honestly, not even one comment where some guy goes, oh my God, what about her career? Okay. If I ever read that, that means we're making progress. We're literally nowhere near that. Okay. I just want to make that clear. And they're all sociopaths and they think it's funny. It's not. And so and they don't deserve what they have. Suspicious that he had been oh wait, is he a stalker? A third woman reported that he showed up to her house unannounced. Oh, that's nice. He's like a straight up, here's the stalker guy. Then he shows up and then he raped her in front of her young child. I mean, this guy. Years after they had a brief fling and she cut him out of her life. And a fourth woman reported that he had sexually assaulted her after she met him at a bar See, he's a sociopath, so he doesn't care about the harm he does to his victims. He doesn't care about the kid being there either, right? He's a straight up sociopath, okay? Any person that rapes a woman or a man or transgender or any LGBTQ is a fucking sociopath, okay? So that's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not a debatable topic. Because when you go to talk to them about, like, what the fuck, why did you do that? It is the mind of a sociopath. It is the craziest thing. And there's a reason why they can't be really fixed. But, like I said, some people don't want to go back to jail. So some may try not to do it, but the way that they're thinking about it is not changed. And this is kind of a problem. And so we're trying to tackle that problem, and then hopefully one day, it may not be in my lifetime, that there's a cure for this bullshit, because you don't want something that's like non-curable, that's a harm to fucking humanity. You know what I mean? Like, it's an area where they have not really tackled properly. I feel they've been brushing off, going, oh, he's just depressed. Oh, this is just a boy thing. Oh, I mean, the amount of cuddling is disgusting. And same with females, right? Like, we're just like, oh, and they just kind of brush it off that they're being like evil Karens, like from hell. But they're being that way because of the stuff that I said, right? So they kind of got indoctrinated and abused in the same thing, right? So they're kind of taught to also, it's like we get two whammies here. The fucking men and these damn women targeting us all at the same time, right? So we get this, like, we don't have a backup, you know? It's pretty bad. And so then they just enable this right here. Read the comments. It's very easy to see that. And you're like, socio. I never did. As crazy as all the shit I did, like as a teen, like when we're all, effing around and stuff like that. I cannot recall one single time. And if I ever did, call it out. But I never recall one single time when, even just growing up, going, well, you shouldn't have wore that. I don't believe you that somebody did that. I've never done that. And I had to think of my family. I go, I don't think that anybody, uh, talked that way. I think, besides my dad trying to blame me for everything under the sun, but that was much later. Like, there was no, like, actual discussions at all, really, around all that. And I think that's one thing that was kind of, like, non-existent. So there wasn't, I mean, it was almost like a blank slate. Like, nobody's really saying anything. So I didn't have that additional, like, you shouldn't have wore that. Like, he would be mad that I'd wear stuff, but I don't know. I didn't get that verbal garbage. Like, I don't recall it. Like, I'm trying to think about it. I was like, I don't recall it. If I can't recall it, then it probably didn't happen. Or if it did, then I didn't take it in the way that these trashy socio females are doing. It was more me listening to my friends saying that guy's actually a pedo, and I'm just like, my brain's like, what's that? And then, like, I just didn't understand that whole thing. So this guy's a piece of shit. And so then, no, the story I really wanted to talk about was the rainbow one, because I was so happy to see they got sued, because I was like, it's about time. For me to sue them, it would have been difficult, because they would argue, I know what they would do there. But the one thing, it would have been easier, like, if I became a drug addict, right? It's like, my problem with them is that they had drugs in their building, and they were accessible to children, and they were all over the bathroom, right? So me and the other girl were in the bathroom, and I recall it being like on the toilet seat, on the top of the thing. And then I was joking how I'd constantly find money there because all the drug addicts would go in there and roll up their dollars, or when they were pulling it out, like would drop their bills. So I would just pull up like 20s and stuff. Like they just left it there. But they had drugs around children, and they had a drug room, and us two kids like walked in the drug room, and I was like, what the hell? And we didn't know what it was, and it freaked her out. Like I have that low fear thing, like I'm like, whatever, what is going on in here? Like that. And I don't know. She's like, I don't feel good in here. We need to leave. I'm like, all right. That's how that was. But yeah, they had it, and they didn't have that I dude. The fact that anybody thinks this is made up is hilarious because I was actually talking about this before this lawsuit came up and tackling Corey Feldman for even going there with the rape documentary, which made no sense that you would take that there where all these rapes occurred and a murder, by the way, and a murder on women. And it's making me question a lot of these other rock stars that hung out there. Pretty much like anybody from my past that I was into is total garbage. I was like, total garbage. They're all pedo rapists and think it's funny. And I'm just not. We're not into the bully bunch. We're not into any of that crap. I at no time, you know how long the rainbow's been open? Like 60 years, dude. Okay? And at its very start, it had a human trafficking ring of children that was going into this bar. And it had a major drug ring of shit going on in there. And they were raping everybody in there, right? So they were knocking girls out, raping them all over the place, all outside the building. Um, it was horrible. Like when I was thinking about it now, but I remember when I first went in there, I was like, I remember everybody talking about the place, but I'm thinking it's this like, I was thinking it would be more like Gazari's or something, like they had bands there and it's this big place. And I go in and it's just this little freaking building. And it's kind of a dirty, filthy hellhole. And I was just like, I don't get it. It was like me like that. I'm like, I really don't get it. Like, there's nothing here. Like, I get Gazari's because it's like a big, like all the bands played there, and it's a bigger venue, and that's what you do there, right? But in here, it was just like where people hung out and were doing drugs, and then just nothing. Like it was, I don't know. That's all it was this tiny little place, and then people drank, right? And then downstairs, I guess they eat, but there's no way you can get me to eat there. Like I wouldn't eat there. That's not. I wouldn't. I know, not in that. No. I was laughing when people were like, "Oh, the food." I'm like, I would think that was the last thing you would go there for, but okay. And I'm not even that picky for food, but something about it was just filthy. Like a rape burger. Like who wants that? So okay, so then yeah, with the Ron Jeremy hair and it, because like I know my gross out days. Yeah, that was one of my problems. Okay, so it says Ron Jeremy accused of heinous sexual acts at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, Sunset Strip venue, hit with negligent suit over rapes by him. Yes, and when this is kind of this sucks because it's not a overall suit on their negligence from us all, really, because the truth is that for 60 years they've been running a rape den, and one of my incidents, like you'll see this, there's like a bar, like there's an area out here where they all sit. I don't know if this front enter part here in the photo on the thing has changed over the years, but I could swear like everybody used to hang out right on that around that corner thing right there. And I was standing right over here by you'll see the rainbow sign, and then you go underneath the bar and grill or something. I was kind of right over there, right? And some guy came and kidnapped me and started dragging me. He was like, all I remember from it is like some guy went and put his arm all around me and started walking me down the street. And I was like drunk because I was hanging out just talking to a bunch of people. And then he's just talking, and then all of a sudden he throws me and drags me into the back behind the liquor store. Like, which way is it? The west, right? Going west from the bar. And then it used to be like this empty lot or something. I think they built a building on it now. But they dragged me back there and I totally could have got murdered. Like literally everybody's out here watching. Like it wasn't even a thing where like nobody saw, nobody nothing. How do I get taken in front of people I'm talking to, right? So that happened. And then they did that. And then they either took off or I'm confusing another variation of the story where somebody else is either the same perpetrator or a different guy. I don't know. But they took my arm and then took a pen and put their phone number down my entire arm, like my entire arm. And I was like, what the fuck? And everybody's laughing. And I'm like a kid, right? And some that was a Japanese guy. I remember what he looked like a bit, but we're not going to be doing lineups. But, um, they, yeah, it was a Japanese, like, rock star type of looking dude. And I have an idea, like, there was only so many, you know what I mean, out here at that time. So, yeah. Okay, so when we go down here, they sue the rainbow. Yeah. So I called out Corey Feldman for being such a disgusting piece of crap, because he hung out with all the rapists out here, covered it up, didn't see a problem. The problem is, it isn't that he didn't know about it. The problem is that he knew about it and he thinks that that conduct on women is totally fine. He's had this issue forever, okay? I mean, you're totally fine if you're handing your friend here off to a 30-year-old guy, right? However old he was at the time. And so here that was the whole thing, is that at this time period too, where they were just raping children like crazy. And in fact, this place was noted for Mr. Kitties, right? You guys know I talk about Mr. Kitties all the time. His rapist little daddy used to take him up into the rainbow, and that's where he started out as a kid, right? And then Mr. Kitties was raping kids since. So yeah, that was the place to go for pedophiles. And it was perfect. It was a perfect setup for it because it was like an all age thing, and then they had the drugs in there, and then all the pedophiles would come and then they would drug you or drink, put your shit in the drinks or whatever the hell they did, and then prey on the children there. And then the cops are hanging out outside. The cops were there all the fucking time. Like, it was a crazy thing because they would be parked in the middle of the street sometimes, and like they're just looking for someone to bust for a DUI. That's about it. Like, so they're watching this conduct, they're having drug shit all in there, and at no time during this drug war did they go and target that building, which is just the craziest thing to me, because I'm like thinking, oh, this place is eventually going to get shut down. I mean, how the fuck do you run on a business like that, right? No. So you should question this. So all the celebrities hung out here, and no, I did not go hang out with celebrities, because I didn't hang out with any celebrity there, and I was telling one off, right? Um, but I was kind of curious because I heard a lot about it, and I was trying to figure out, like, what's the thing about it? And then it was like nothing, and I really wasn't into it at all. It just wasn't. And then you hear these stories of like Ronnie hanging out there and just a tank of people. You knew Motorhead, the Lemmy was always there. I don't know if I seen him there or not, but he hung out there, and that doesn't surprise me none. But there was a lot of people that I was kind of like, why would you hang out in that environment though? You know what I mean? But they don't have any fucks for women generally, so it doesn't bother them that we're all getting groped and raped up in here. Because if it did bother them, they had 60 years, okay? 60 plus whatever, because was it 72 they opened? I don't know. But anyway, they had around 60 years to sit there and make a complaint like, wow, this place is really horrible for females. Hell no. They're like, this place is really perfect for me being a predator sociopath to go rape a bunch of kids and some other adult women and grope them. This is an easy way for me to grope them. They don't see groping as a rape assault. Nothing. I don't want to hear men talking ever again. I really don't. I'm tired of it, because you had 60 years. I don't want to hear governments lying bullshit about how we care about children and this is a horrible crime. You're literally there, dude. You had 60 years. You knew the human trafficking child ring was going on there, too. That fucking pedo dude was there. In fact, I may have actually ran into that guy because I was looking. I kept saying, I go, I don't know, yeah, maybe. But yeah, because there was a lot of weirdos. I was like, who's that fucker? You know, like I didn't know who any of these people were. So like half of them were like well known, right? And I'm like, I don't know who that. I don't know who that is. They're ugly as shit. Like kind of like that thing. I know they're really heavily focused on just the Ron Jeremy thing, but all of us, like I had those incidents right there. And like I said, it's difficult because the perpetrator is a unknown suspect, and then on the inside, um, they were facilitating somehow drug stuff. So they made a room so they can go do that. And so it was like no wonder that Corey Feldman loved it because he was a big drug addict back in the day. So that's probably where he kept going. And you wouldn't know it because they have those little hideouts in there. And only the drug people would know it. And I don't know about that back area. It sounds like the basement. I'm like, I don't know about no damn basement, but there might have been a back room where they're talking about, which I don't know where that is. It might have been down at the food area and then back somewhere else, which I didn't really hang out on the bottom floor. So yeah, it wouldn't be just from them because they were facilitating it just generally for 60 years, you guys. Like, they should have been shut down in the 70s, technically, for the shit that they were doing. And kids were getting kidnapped left and right. And then a girl got lured out of there and murdered. You guys do know that, right? So they allowed that. I don't know why they weren't shut down then. They just look at it like, it's not our fault. And yet, as you see here, it is their fault because they promoted for men to do that to our gender. But we're non-existent, right? Like we don't matter. We're just objects. So it just doesn't matter. Yeah, if they did that to fucking Ron Jeremy and we drugged him out and then took him out somewhere and then tied him up to a tree and he got murdered, then they would have this huge damn fit, right? Do this to all the rock stars there. Fucking Bret Michaels in his fucking goddamn Ferrari. Take him out and then go do that. It would have been this huge, like, oh my god, this is the most atrocious crimes that are going on ever. They're hurting our men. They're hurting our men, Show me. Don't give me your fake fucking bullshit how you care about us. You had 60 years, dude. And it's not even men sitting there suing them. It's women having to do it. And then we have to read these stupid sociopaths saying this is all fake and a money grab. I'm like, the owner literally said that they knew that he was groping everybody. And he was totally fine with it. He's like, there's nothing wrong with that. But not rape. Like, those two things are different or something. That's, the brain of a sociopath. It's a fucking scrambled egg. They're fucking ridiculous. What else can I say about it? Anybody who went, women, they should be paying out every woman that had ever went into that fucking joint. Like, dead serious. Mostly kids. Like, we were kids when I went in there. I'm like, I'm traumatized, you know what I mean? And these guys are disgusting. I'm not supporting any of them. Like, you don't have to, and they can cry cancel culture all day. Like, what the fuck? Did they deserve it? No. They didn't deserve half the shit that they got. They sat there and raped us all the way to the bank. Like, you're talking about physically. And then they have this, like, expectation, because they're all fucking narcissists, that we have to then fucking support their asses. The reason why they don't support women isn't the same reason. It's because they hate women. They don't have respect for women. So they don't want them anywhere near them. And so they're mad that they're getting outed now because they're a bunch of sociopath rapists. Like, who would want to be around them anyway? Fucking disgusting. They can sit on my middle. I'm like, they could sit on my middle finger.